Hello and welcome to the 5th episode of Surprisingly Even podcast. My name is Judit. This podcast is about knitting, which is my hobby and favorite thing to do. I live and knit in Toronto, Canada, and can be found on Ravelry as JuditNJulia. If you are a returning viewer, thank you so much for joining me again. I really appreciate your continued interest and support. It means a lot to me. And if you are new to this podcast, thank you very much for stopping by. Welcome to my knitting world, and please make yourself comfortable. I have a lot of very exciting content to share with you. This past week was very productive for me knitting-wise. Last weekend was a long weekend in Canada, civic holiday, which is every first Monday of August we get an extra day off. And my family was out for most of it. I had the house to myself and a lot of time to knit. Having set the expectations quite high, hope not to disappoint, let's start. And as always, we are going to begin with garments. In the garments department, I have no finished object this week, but a very exciting cast on. Last time we talked, I had just finished a garment and was about to cast on a new project, which was supposed to be a lattice or braid pattern by Ririko. That didn't happen. There has been a change in plans. Instead, I decided to knit something else. Soirée pullover by Emily Foden from anniversary edition of Pom Pom magazine. This pattern has been in my queue for a while, since I saw it for the first time when the magazine arrived at my doorstep. I really like it, and I had wanted to knit it, but the plan was put on hold because I didn't think I had suitable yarn in my stash. And I did start knitting the lattice or braid pattern by Ririko as had been planned. I started with the shoulder panels, and for some reason it just didn't feel right, like it would be the best fit for the yarn. I didn't quite like the look of it, how the cables were emerging, and to be honest, the yarn I'm using is not probably the most suitable yarn for cabling, but I thought it would be fine, it would work just fine. And ironically, Soirée pullover also has cabling in it, but that didn't stop me. Anyway, so I started lattice or braid, wasn't quite happy with how it was coming out, and then I was thinking, what else could I knit from this yarn that would be similar in the look? Because I wanted to try knitting kind of a boxy or more like roomier type of a pullover. All my previous garments are kind of more like of a fitted nature or gentle A-line. So I wanted to try knitting something that would be different and see how that would work for me, the fit would work for me. And then I remembered about Soirée. So when I saw the Soirée pattern for the first time, I knew I had to knit it. I kind of thought I had a plan for making it out of a combination of yarn in my stash, which was more like a pie in the sky dream rather than a real plan, and you'll see shortly why. So as you can guess, the backstory is coming up. The pattern is written for combining, threading two yarns together, thin fingering, a lace weight mohair, and the combination is absolutely luxurious in look and feel. And I had these two yarns, let me show them to you. So the first one is Heavenly Fingering by Uncommon Thread, and this is the color. As you can see, it's a quite bold color and not typically my cup of tea, so I'm not sure what came over me or what possessed me when I ordered this, but I must have been having quite a dull day and needed a pop of color in my life, so here it is. It's really beautiful, but when it arrived, I'm like, oh gosh, how can I make it work? Because on its own it could be too much. Could it be a sweater or a shawl? And then this year when I went to Knitter's Frolic, I bought this yarn, which is, as you can see, a lace weight mohair. It's by Fleece Artist and it's called Zambezi. This is 70% kid mohair and 30% silk. So I thought that if I combine these two together, this neutral lace mohair will kind of serve as a bit of a muting kind of influence on this very bright color, and they may look actually quite interesting together. And the Soirée pullover would provide perfect opportunity to put these to that kind of a use, but I quickly realized that it was not meant to be, because I did not have enough yardage of either of these yarns. I have about like 1,300 of this. The yardage on this is actually quite incredible. So as you can see, I paid $45 for it, and it's 1,000 meters, which is 1,093 yards, which is like totally awesome, but still wouldn't be enough to make Soirée. So as much as I enjoy a good round of yarn chicken game, that would be just setting up myself for failure. So I put that beautiful dream aside, kept Soirée in my queue, hoping that a suitable yarn combination will emerge. And as I was knitting on the beginnings of Lattice and Braid, I was thinking what else I could use the yarn for. I thought, why don't I try and make a Soirée out of this? Because this yarn that I'm using is the Yak Singles by the Wool Bar. It does have a bit of a halo to it. I thought, okay, so my gauge would be tighter than what the pattern calls for, but I can cast on more stitches, like knit a bigger size and kind of wing it as I go to make sure the fit works. So yeah, I cast on Soirée, and I found the pattern to be so addictive that I had trouble putting it down. I did make quite a bit of progress on it. Again, combination of factors. Long weekend, empty house to myself. There was a third season of Narcos on Netflix, even though it's not an ideal show for me to watch while knitting, because a lot of it is in Spanish and I don't speak Spanish, so it's not one of those shows you can just listen to while concentrating on your knitting. Every once in a while you do have to look up to see what's going on, so that kind of slows me down. But there's a lot of suspenseful parts, and I usually tend to knit faster during those, so that kind of balanced out. Anyway, let me show you how far I've got. This is where I am. I actually finished knitting the entire body and this is knit bottom up until you split for shoulders, and then you finish the two parts separate, and then you cast on the sleeves. I even made it longer than what the pattern calls for, because I'm taller. I'm quite tall. It's meant to be a short, kind of cropped, almost cropped boxy fit, but I thought, you know what, I think the yarn will allow me to make it longer, so I did. So where I am now, I've already split for between front and back, and now I'm knitting on the back. I really love this pattern. My favorite pattern is this stitch design right here. It's beyond squishy, and I think I love this, how textured it looks. It's just so perfect, and this is exactly what I was looking at to add the visual interest to this seemingly plain kind of yarn. One area of concern at this point is the tendency to roll at the bottom, because this is just plain stockinette. I looked at the other comments on Ravelry, and there's not too many, so people seem to have been dealing with it just by blocking the sweater, but I'm not sure it's gonna work in my case with this particular yarn. I did steam the edge slightly, like very lightly, just to see if this will help it to relax, and it did help a lot, but still not completely. So I'm really tempted to do a knot cord finishing in the bottom. I'm just gonna pick up stitches along the bottom and just do a knot cord. I'm really pleased with the progress I'm making, especially given the fact that it's like almost 300 stitches in one row. So, but again, I really like this pattern, and there is a high probability I will actually make another if this works in terms of the fit, because at this point it's kind of hard to tell how exactly this is going to fit, because this is knitted bottom up, so it's not really something I can truly try on and see. I really hope that I will achieve that kind of boxy look that the pattern is supposed to provide, because sometimes with superwash they tend to weigh and stretch down, which kind of takes away from the width of the garment. So I guess we'll have to wait and see, but I had to literally force myself to put this down and to pick up some of the other stuff that I wanted to either finish or make progress on in last week, because of how addictive it is. I really like these kind of patterns, which like in the round knitting, and which is mostly stockinette, and at the same time so there's some action going on to kind of provide interest and keep you going. And it's like, okay, another twist of a braid, another row of this is just perfect. Really love it so far. So yeah, I will be continuing working on this, keep you up to date. I'm hoping this will be for me, but my daughter already started making claims. So we'll see. I do have another yarn in my stash that would, I think, work well for this, in case I want to make another one. So a lot will hinge on how this one will fit. So this is my work in progress. Really pleased with it so far. We'll see how it goes. And one more thing I wanted to mention about the yarn. The yardage on these skeins is unbelievable. It's 120 grams, 480 meters. And it's just like an Energizer bunny. It keeps going and going and going. This whole thing that I've done, the entire bottom part of the body and even a little bit of the back that I've already started on, it's all one skein. Because initially when I was considering this, I thought that I may not have enough, but I think I'll be fine. Because if this is one and I have two more, so I'll have plenty to finish the top part of the body and the sleeves, and I will probably have leftovers. So this was my work in progress in the garments department. In terms of the future plan, I have a couple of options. We'll talk about one of them now, and the other one will be covered when we talk about the treasure. So the first option actually emerged right this morning. This is a pattern from the new collection by the Woolfolk, and it's called HVIDE or HVIDE. I'll put the name on the screen, and it's by ANKESTRiK, and it's kind of a V-neck, very relaxed fit pullover. My daughter really loved it, so she demanded right away that I have to make it for her, and who am I to say no, since she's helping me a lot with this podcast. So the yarn that I'm going to use for it is this, and it's by Skein. The base is Merino Silk Sport. The colorway is called Milk Glass. It's quite lovely, and I love this muted combination of all the pastels, and it feels quite luxurious. So Merino silk, what's not to like? I haven't worked with this base before, but really looking forward to it. So this is a possibility for the next garment I'm going to knit after Soirée is done. Moving on to shawls. In shawls, I have a new cast on, and here it is. Didn't get too far, but it is growing quite fast. I predict this will be done quite quickly. This yarn is, as you may remember, something that I hand dyed myself as part of my hand dyeing yarn class. It's worsted superwash merino base. Don't know the yardage, but I hope it will be enough for this pattern, which is Mucha by Leila Raabe. As I started knitting this, it is growing quite fast, and I kind of like that it's growing wide rather than tall. It does increase in this depth, but it's growing faster along the horizontal dimension, so which I think is ideal, because I wouldn't have enough yardage to have a meaningfully wide shawl if it was kind of very, very deep. So and there are two options in the pattern for a bigger and a smaller size. So I was thinking, will I have enough yarn for the bigger size, or will I not have enough for the bigger size? And as I was thinking this, I got a text message from my friend Vanessa, who told me, Judit, be careful about Mucha pattern, because I just finished the smaller version and this is all the yarn I have left. She's knitting it out of exactly same two skeins of worsted superwash merino that we had dyed together in the same class. Hers is a beautiful chartreuse color. I think this will be a small version of the Mucha shawl, unless I can come up with a suitable kind of complementary yarn to do the border in, maybe something darker, but I don't think I have anything in my stash, and that would involve buying something, and I'm not sure I feel like it. So this probably is not going to be for myself, because it's not exactly my color. I have a couple of people in mind that this will go to. Depends who of them I see first and which of them will like it better. So I will keep you up to date, but I really like knitting on this. The pattern is really straightforward, and I really like the texture that it creates, this kind of very textured kind of ribbing type of fabric. And this is the first time I'm knitting a shawl out of thicker worsted weight yarn, and I quite like how fast it grows. So this may become a trend in the future. It's definitely ideal for gifts, because yeah, it's literally like flying off the needles. This was just a couple of hours of watching Outlander season 2 on Netflix. So yeah. So after I'm done with the blue shawl, the next one I'm gonna put in my needles is another time trade shawl by Caitlin Hunter. As you recall, I already made one of those for my daughter in black, gray, turquoise blue, kind of light blue kind of color combo. This one, and I'm fortunate enough to have procured 2 kits. So that one I bought for my daughter, and this one she actually bought for me for my birthday. And this is supposed to be the color combo that's been used to knit the sample in the picture. And I really like these colors. Just wanted to show them to you briefly. So these two variegated are the same bases as were included in the first kit that I knit, which is this one is Primrose Yarn, Merino single. It's 100% superwash Merino, and the colorway is Hermione. It's a lovely name and a really, really beautiful color. It's these beige, green, pink. Oh, it's just gorgeous. I can't wait to see how it will look in the finished object. And darker variegated skein is Rocky Mountain Pearls by Farmer's Daughter, and this is 80% BFL and 20% nylon. Also very beautiful color. So these two will perfect next to each other. Much more my colors than the first shawl I did. And it also came with this set of 5 minis. Complementary colors were supposed to fade from dark to light, and these are by Cedar House Yarns. So can't wait to start on this one and can't wait to finish, but not looking forward to weaving in 56 ends of yarn. As you may recall, that's what had to be done for the first shawl. But I guess if you want to have a beautifully striped, multicolored shawl, there is no way around it. There will be some yarn weaving involved. So this is where I am with the shawls. Next on the menu, we can talk quickly about hats. There hasn't been much progress in the hats department, sadly. I guess I was engrossed in knitting the Soirée sweater, which is kind of was all-consuming project for me this week. But I did make just a little bit of progress on this hat that I'm knitting on, as you may remember. This is from Hedgehog Fibres socks base. The colorway is Crybaby, using up the leftover from the fade sweater. Also test driving Licky wooden needles. So this is Licky driftwood needles that I'm trying for the first time. I'm not usually a wooden needle type of a person. Most of my needles are metal, but I might say I'm quite enjoying knitting with these ones. I don't find them to be sticky at all. The end is beautifully tapered with this pleasantly rounded tip, which neither doesn't prick your fingers or split the yarn, and this yarn can be quite splitty, so really enjoyed knitting with them so far. One thing, the cable is quite stiff, not necessarily appropriate or not the best cable, I would say, for magic looping. It is working for me this time around just because it's quite long, so I don't have to kind of aggressively force it into a loop. But could be a problem had I decided to use like a shorter cable length. I think it would crinkle eventually, but other than that, I think I will be really enjoying knitting with these. I can see myself ordering more in the future, so yeah, another favorite, I would say. And a future plan for a hat, I already know what the yarn is going to be. As you remember on the last episode, in the treasure department, I was talking about shipment of More, not a shipment, a recent addition to my stash of 3 skeins of More Light yarn by the Fiber Company. I ordered 3 different colors: ivory gray, charcoal gray, and navy blue, this one. Even though I ordered More Light, this skein they sent to me a heavier weight by mistake, so it's just a regular More. I ordered this from Web's store, which is yarn.com. And I emailed them on Monday saying that this has been a mistake and how can I return it and exchange it for the lighter weight that I had actually ordered. And they were nice enough to let me keep the skein. So they're sending me a replacement, and they let me change the color, because I had decided that instead of combining blue with ivory and gray, I would rather do red. I'm waiting now for a new skein of really beautiful red color, More Light. And this one, I think I'm going to make a hat out of. It could be the antler hat that I had made recently for my husband, or one of the other cable hat patterns that I don't have shortage of. So I already know who the recipient is going to be. I want to knit it for one of my male colleagues. I hope he'll like it. I'll probably cast it on after I'm done with the Crybaby hat. Really love this color, and the yarn and how it feels reminds me a lot of Shelter by Brooklyn Tweed. Next, let's talk about mittens. And in the mittens department, we have a finished object. Yay! And here it is. So these are Sit and Ma mittens by Hannah Levaniemi. And last time we spoke, I had one finished, and this was in progress. And here they are, both of them. I really like how they turned out. Fit like a glove, and they feel great. These are for my mother. They are going to be a set with the hat I completed earlier this month. She's now on vacationing, and this set will be waiting for her when she's back, and I really hope she likes it. What else can I tell about them? I had already spoken about how much I love the yarn Cumbria by the Fiber Company, and the pattern is a free pattern on Ravelry, and this is like really nice fit. I think it will be my go-to for gift mittens, and really fast to make. I can highly recommend it. I do have quite a bit of leftover from the second skein. It could either be probably not enough on its own to make another hat, but it could potentially be combined with some leftovers I have of Shelter by Brooklyn Tweed to make a color work hat. Now, it would be two very different fibers to combine, but I think it may result in a very curious fabric and visual effect. So I guess we'll see. We'll keep you up to date. Also, as promised, in the mittens department, the minute I cast the Sidema mittens off, another pair was supposed to go on my needles, and it did. And these are the second pattern in Skein Dear Mittens Club, which she has recently announced, and the pattern was released on September 1st. I did attempt to pronounce the name of the pattern last time, but I realize now there's no way I'm going to pronounce it right. So it starts with an M, and here it is. The yarn I'm using for this pair is Blue Sky Fibres Woodstock. 2 different colors as the pattern calls for. This one is Driftwood and this one is Red Rock. And I already have one almost done. Minus the thumb. I'll do it both at the same time. So here's how it fits. A bit on the big side. I mean, not too big. I still will be able to wear them because I do want to keep them for myself. But I do have some room here at the top, which I guess will come in handy should I decide to grow my nails really long. I showed the picture of these two to one of my friends, and she said that they look incredibly Christmassy, and I think she's right. And just hearing that just made me like them even more, because it kind of puts you in a festive mood, even though winter holiday is still some months away. But there's definitely a bite in the air, and I think the summer is over. So this is the first one, and I already started on the second one, and here's how far I got. I really hope to finish them this weekend, because for me personally, color work mittens is not something I can put away and pick up a few weeks later. I have recently developed inconsistent mitten syndrome, which means that sometimes when I make color work mittens, the other one doesn't quite turn the same size as the first one. So I'm watching this one like a hawk, and putting it against the first one, comparing, are they the same? Should they start being like deliberately looser or tighter? I think so far so good. Maybe this one is a tiny bit smaller than the first one, but I don't think anybody would notice, and I would definitely not advertise that fact. So yeah. Speaking of advertising boo-boos, I did make a couple in this one. Even though this is not something I'm proud of, I'm still gonna show them to you, just because whatever is said on the podcast stays on the podcast, right? So one of them is here, and you see, this is, I don't know how I could have possibly messed it up, because this is something you're supposed to alternate every row. It's like this particular stitch in the middle of this ridge. White, red, white, red, white. So how the hell could I knit two rows in a row in red? I don't know. Anyway, by the time I noticed it, I was somewhere here. I'm like, okay, you know what? That's too late. Let's embrace imperfections. And then I noticed I made another one, which is here. You see, there was supposed to be a red stitch right here, and instead I just, for some reason, decided not to do that. Okay, but I'm not sure if this is something you can call a design feature, but these will be like endearments that will make this even more special for me. So yay for imperfections. Hoping to finish these ones soon. Future plan is obviously the next pattern and Skein Dear Club installment, which I believe is supposed to be released on October 1st. So I'll see if I really need another pair of mittens in my life between now and then. I can always make another pair of either colorwork mittens or another quick pair of Sidema mittens. So I'm really getting into this mitten knitting business, something that I wasn't previously into. So I guess my friends and family should really embrace themselves for a wave of mittens coming their way in the form of like Christmas gifts and such. So we'll see. But yeah, really like them so far. And really like the yarn. Actually, interestingly enough, this time I had already used this specific yarn to make a pair of colorwork mittens, not by Skein, another pattern. I believe I had shown them in the first episode. Those were sunflower mittens. And those are quite snug, even though the stitch count was similar to this, if not exactly the same. So I'm wondering if this is the same yarn. Maybe this is a slightly thicker one, or I don't know. I need to check the label, so to speak. But yeah, it's a bit, even here, it's kind of a bit roomy. Strangely enough, the gauge, even though I didn't swatch or anything, so guilty, but the gauge is exactly what the pattern calls for, which is 6 stitches per inch, and I did count. So I don't know, maybe Blockin will fix it, but I like how long they are. Actually, will be really warm to wear in winter, and we do live in Canada, so it can't be too warm when the winter arrives. So yeah, these are my mittens in progress. Next, we are going to talk about socks. And in the socks area, we do have a finished object. These are Mercury socks that I have been knitting on for like, seems like ever. And this is one downside of making socks 2 at a time. It does seem like it takes forever, but for me it's the only way, because not only it prevents the second sock syndrome, but it also helps me ensure that they come out exactly the same, which is not always the case with my mittens. So maybe there is a way for me to make them 2 at a time, but I know color work will probably be hard to manage. So yeah, I'm done with them. Both of them are done, and I haven't washed them, but good thing I do have sock blockers now to show them to you properly. So all the ends have been weaved, and I really like how they turned out. I think these are, out of the socks I've recently made, I think these are my favorite so far. And this is the first time I made socks with contrasting toe, heel, and cuff. The only regret I have with these that I should have made them bottom up rather than top down, but I still think everything worked out fine, because I was afraid that the toe, I did run out of this lighter color yarn about here. I had to start the toe sooner than I had anticipated, but I think it looks fine, even though proportionally it may be a tiny bit bigger than ideal, but I don't think it's a big deal. I still love them. Can't wait to wear them. They fit really well. I mean, they are a bit snug, but this is the way I like my socks when I just finish them, because they do tend to stretch, especially lacy socks like this. So yay, Mercury socks. Next pair of socks that goes on my needles will be made out of this yarn. I really like this color. It's called Shroom, and it's by Lichen and Lace. This is a Canadian dyer, so yay for supporting local producer. It's 80% superwash merino, 20% nylon, and I haven't worked with this before. This is my first time actually knitting with this yarn. Actually, no, I'm lying. I did make the previous pair of socks that I had made was out of Lichens and Lace. I heard a lot of really good things about this, and I heard that the socks made out of it tend to really last. So that's always a plus. So the pattern I'm going to knit out this yarn will be Hermione's Everyday Sock, which is a free pattern on Ravelry by Erica Lueder. I'm hoping I'm pronouncing this right. So next pair to go on my needles, and I will be making these bottom up, fish lips, kiss, heel, and using the stitch pattern in the Hermione's Everyday Sock. Okay, so this was all the knitting content that I wanted to cover, and we can now talk about treasure. So the treasure segment this week is about very welcome addition to my stash that has just arrived. As you may recall, I was in the search of a perfect color combination to make the Sunset Highway pullover by Caitlin Hunter, and I think I have just found it. So I acquired 5 skeins of yarn from Skein, Australian dyer, in 4 different colors, and let me just show them to you. So This is a wool shed color, and it's supposed to go for the main part of the body, and that's why I ordered 2 of these as the pattern calls for. And the 3 contrasting colors will be, this is a graphite, and it's to make the beautiful pattern on the yoke, and it also calls for 2 contrasting color, and these will be the colors I'm going to use. So this is pollen and this is sherbet. So, pollen and sherbet fizz. My favorite color out of the bunch by far is this one. I really love the yellows and oranges and beiges, and how happy and subtle it is at the same time. So I had wanted this color for a long time. All of them are on the same base, which is top draw sock. 85% superwash merino, 15% nylon, incredible yardage, 400 meters and 95 grams. So I think this is going to be it. And there is a strong possibility this will go on my needles right after I'm done with Soirée. So it will be a coin toss between this one and the one I was talking about before that I'm about to make out of this yarn, also from Skein. So we'll see which one wins. And both of these purchases from Skein are part of my birthday month Reckless Yarn by Extravaganza, but both will be going to good use, and I'm really happy with them. One thing I wanted to say about the Sunset Highway pullover, I'm still not sure that this would be the yarn I will use for the yoke, just because it tends to be fairly solid, and I think it's supposed to be more like a variegated nature to achieve the full effect of the pattern, but this one may work as well. And I really like how these colors work together. I think it will be beautiful as a finished object. I do anticipate I'll have some leftovers, so we'll have to find a way to deal with those. But I guess we'll worry about it when we get there. Okay, so I'm all set with my future plans. There's a lot of them, just need an extra pair of hands and more hours in a day, so that I just can sit and knit through all of this. But again, if something is making us happy, we can always find the time for it, or money for that matter. So yeah, one comment I got after the last couple of episodes is that people really like seeing my dogs on the podcast. I have 2 English Springer Spaniels, Dexter and Stella. Stella has been featured more prominently just because she tends to be more extroverted when it comes to these things. But I will try to include more footage of the babies. I hope they will cooperate. So let's see if it happens this time. Thank you very much for joining me. Enjoy the rest of your weekend, and happy knitting, or whatever else you do that makes you happy. Talk to you next time.